Hello and welcome to this week's weekly wind-up with me, Kyle Warwick. The guest for today's show is Dave Hodgson. The main topics for this episode of the weekly wind-up are Huddersfield clubbers being breathalysed and also problems on the first bus services. On to our first topic. 5 of Huddersfield's biggest venues for nights out have already started with the pilot scheme, which started on the 21st of September to coincide with the start of Huddersfield Freshers Week. The breathalyser will show positive if the person has blown 70 milligrams, which is double the drink drive limit. We asked the people of Huddersfield what they thought about the scheme to breathalyse clubbers.
I think at the base of it, it's a good idea in that, some people do over the top and they're in a state where they shouldn't really be in the club because it's dangerous to other people. They can be violent or be sick everywhere. It's just going to create a mess. But at the end of the day, the legal limit is so low, it's ridiculous. If everyone's having a couple of drinks before they go out, which everyone does, we're all students, everyone's going to be over the limit. So at the end of the day, it's unfair to say to someone, take this breathalyser, they're over the limit and you can't come in, when there'll be hundreds and hundreds of people who are probably way over the limit more than they are. It's just a case of, whether you're picked or not, really. So I think it's a good idea, but it needs to be sort of done in a sense that they put the level up. So you have to be actually very drunk to then say, no, you're not allowed in.
I think it's a bit silly, bearing in mind that people actually go to clubs to drink, and if you can't drink in clubs, then where else are you going to go and drink?
Yeah. Well, I think that it's probably the smart choice to make. Like, I used to work in a nightclub, and the amount of people that used to come in that were so drunk, stupidly drunk, and the bouncers just let them in. I just think it'd probably be a smart choice, save a lot of trouble.
So Dave, welcome to the programme.
It's nice to be back at the pointy end of the camera for a change.
Indeed, yeah. So how do you feel about this scheme? Do you think it's a good idea?
I sat with amazement when I heard of it and thought, being breathalysed to go into a nightclub, why? And then I remembered that at one time you weren't breathalysed for being a car and thinking, what? Being breathalysed for driving? It's going to come, hasn't it? The more and more people there are, the more and more people who want to enjoy themselves in this sort of way, then there has to be some modicum of control over it. So my feeling is yes, but I wonder if this is the right way.
Yeah, who do you think that the scheme is there to benefit? Do you think it's there for the clubbers, the clubs, for the councils?
Everybody benefits from it without knowing. It even benefits the people who get, shall we say, slightly merry, because you lose the ability to control how much you are drinking, and that's how the thing binge drinking started, isn't it? People who didn't know when to stop because they couldn't, because their brain wouldn't tell them. Come on, stop. Fall over, fall into the road, wham, an accident. Absolutely. Where do you go from there? So yes, councils, because it means probably that they will have less clearing up of the streets and the aftermath of the broken glass, the unmentionable stuff that's turned inside out, if you'll pardon the phrase. That's the best one I can think about. The general detritus that gets left all over the place after a lot of people have had a big night out, save on the cleaning. For the staff as well, because, you see a lot of places where it says now, you will be considered, not an enemy, but you know what I mean? If our staff will not stand for abuse and things like that. And the more the capacity is to get drunk and be excessively rude and nasty to bar staff. Even bouncers, because if some people just fancy their chances with bouncers because they just lose it. And that's at a point where it just has to stop. And basically, I think I'm coming down on the side of saying, like breathalysing for driving, breathalysing to see if you are fit to go into a club will become the norm eventually.
Some people have suggested that this scheme is there to make people spend more money inside the clubs. Is that something that you think is the case?
It's a bit of a cynical angle, but it's a valid one, very, very valid. The thing is, there's a set. Who is going to administer this? Is it the bar staff? Is it the bouncers? Are they going to have to call the police in to say, oh well, we think you shouldn't be here, therefore we will call the police to prove whether you are or not? I don't think that's going to happen. I've got difficulty in saying, how's it going to be done? You know, what are the logistics around this?
I mean, certainly for me, I've worked in town centre bars, and I do frequent Huddersfield town centre quite regularly, and something that I've noticed is if somebody is thought to be too drunk to enter a club, I mean, it's not unusual for people to be denied entry for being too drunk, but they often will always have an argument. They will always have a reply.
Yeah.
And I think the good thing about this is it gives bouncers and it gives club owners and club staff the ability to say to somebody, you're too drunk to come in.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm not drunk at all. Okay, take the breathalyzer test.
Yeah.
There you go. You are too drunk to come into our club. Please leave.
In other words, do it before they get through the door, and I think that's the right way. I think actually, now that I've thought through what you've said, that is the way to do it. But of course, then somebody said, so what are your qualifications to do this to a bouncer, and what does he say?
Yeah.
Or she, let's face it.
Yeah. I mean, I find it difficult to believe that they will, certainly on the 70 milligrams, twice the legal drink drive limit. It's not a vast amount of alcohol for somebody to drink to reach that. So I would find it very hard to believe that, just on a logistical basis as well, every single member of the public going into a club will be breathalysed. I mean, that process in itself would take...
The magic word is or appears to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Most people, it will, generally speaking, I don't think it will affect many people. I don't think it will affect the average person. What it will possibly deal with is the people who can't stop.
Yeah, I think what this will do as well is it gives club staff, bouncers and club owners an element of control. It allows them to look at a person and say they're too drunk already, and then they're not entering into the club, and the people that maybe they haven't been breathalysed, they have drunk a lot, but when they get into the club then has that right to deny them service. If they deem them to have got too drunk in the club, they have the right to deny them service.
Yeah.
You can't once somebody who is too drunk in your club, it's very difficult to then say, well, actually, you need to leave because you've already allowed them onto the premises, and it usually ends up
contributed to what they...
Yeah, it usually ends up in a situation where it is getting out of hand. So for me, it introduces a level of control that allows club owners and staff to just...
There is another side to that coin, though, and I'm just playing devil's advocate a bit here. There are pubs, and I know of a fantastic one in the centre of Huddersfield, and it has a reputation for, how shall we, boisterous behaviour. Now, some people might go in there and think they're all drunk. I'm affronted by and they're not. They're just having a good time in their own way. And people who like the boisterousness will go into that pub, and it's not a pub to go into if you can't stand being teased or somebody shouting at you or a laugh at nothing really. You know what I mean? And I just hope that it doesn't stop that, because it's part of some pubs' character.
I mean, certainly, I think the big worry for me is that Huddersfield Town Centre is not a particularly thriving place as it is. Are you worried that this maybe will lead to a situation that puts young people, university students in particular, off from coming into town and spending the money in the town centre, rather than making them think, oh, I won't have some drinks at home because I'll go out and spend it in town? They're always going to be able to get drink cheaper at home. So do you think it might lead to a situation where you're having university students staying on campus and buying cheap alcohol rather than frequenting the town centre pubs?
What a very good question. No, I don't think it will. Simple answer to that. No, it's the camaraderie, isn't it? It's the being with mates. Yeah. It's the having a good time with mates. Sit at home having a good... Even however cheap the boot. No, it doesn't work.
My worry is that if the procedure is not fully explained as to how this is going to work,
Yes,
that
yeah.
it could lead to
Yeah.
negative vibes for the
It could be, and people getting caught up in it innocently. Overall, yes, good idea. Whether it will work or not, time will tell.
So do you feel maybe there's more ways that bars and clubs, and should it be on the bars and clubs to be regulating?
That's a difficult one. Is it self-regulation or not? No, it's always been a pub landlord. Oh, going back saying that. It is at the discretion of a pub landlord whether he will or she will serve you or not. Yeah. You cannot demand a drink. It is the law. They have the right to refuse you. So I would say no, they're probably the right people to do it, and bouncers are as well, because I've been at colleges and worked at places like that where they actually teach bouncers how to bounce. That doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it can be taught how to deal with people and deal with them in different situations. Can be taught. So dealing with somebody who's a bit obstreperous and won't take a They seem to be able to do it and still keep their cool and still be civil to the people. So for me, it's the door people who should be doing this, not the people trying to serve a pint and breathalyse somebody with the same and dropping it in the beer, you know, who knows. Absolutely. That sort of thing. Yeah. If it's properly put together, it will work.
Thank you for that, Dave. We're going to move on to some more news from around the Kirklees area. Reported in the Huddersfield Examiner on the 4th of October, Huddersfield's Upmarket Sundays have launched a loyalty card. Stall holders at Huddersfield's monthly Upmarket Sunday are launching a loyalty card scheme which will give shoppers a stamp for every purchase of over £2.50. When they have 10 stamps or more, they can exchange their card for £2.50 at a participating stall. Laura Merriman of I Love Cheesecake said, "We have developed some really loyal customers at Upmarket, and we want them to keep spending with loyal independent businesses like us and give them a reward for doing so. We hope this will encourage them to raise awareness of the market with friends and family." Started in March 2012, Upmarket Sunday takes place in the town's covered market on the second Sunday of each month from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and showcases some of the best local and independent producers in the area. The theme of the next market on Sunday, October the 11th is Music at the Markets. Organisers have planned a day of live music as well as a free children's craft workshop and face painting between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. There will be over 50 stalls selling a variety of goods including jams, chutneys, cheese, eggs, bread, oils, cakes, cider, pies, olives and fresh fruit and vegetables. Lunch choices will include Malaysian, Caribbean and Hungarian street food. As well as the food stalls, Upmarket also has stalls selling handmade soaps, candles, toys, photography, blankets, cards, gifts and vintage clothing. Remember, you can contact the Weekly Wind-Up at info@kirkleeslocaltv.com. You can tweet us at the Weekly Wind-Up, and you can also find us on Facebook.
However large or small your business, attracting new customers requires dedication and a lot of patience. Just like fishing, but you also need the right gear. Rods,
reels, lines, hooks, sinkers, lures, tackle box, tackle bag, net, bait, gas gloves, clothes, pocket knife, lunch.
Or you could simply advertise with KLTV. Online, grow your business and your clientele. KLTV, your vision made reality. Should have gone to KLTV.
And welcome back. Before we go on to our next topic, let's have some more news from around the Kirklees area. Reported in the Huddersfield Examiner on the 5th of October, work starts on a new multi-million-pound Royds Hall school. Youngsters donned hard hats and grabbed a shovel to herald the start of building work on a new multi-million-pound community school for Huddersfield. The new primary at Royds Hall is being funded by Kirklees Council as a response to need for extra school places. The school will open in September 2016 and will provide an additional 420 primary school places in state-of-the-art facilities over the next 5 years. Over 1,500 people aged from 3 to 16 will be taught at the all-through school by 2020. Councillor Shabir Pandor, Kirklees Council's Cabinet Member for Schools and Learning, said, "I'm delighted that work has started on site and that we're another step closer to having a fantastic new primary school facility. The new build will complement the existing school and is a welcome boost for the local economy, supporting apprenticeships and creating job opportunities." Now on to our main topic. In the past week or so, there has been a noticeable rise in the number of first buses being cancelled. This has been particularly noticeable on the Marsden line of 185 and 183 buses, but there has also been cancellations on the 358 line to Ashenhurst. Whilst the odd cancellation is to be expected, the inconvenience these can cause can be great to the people who use public transport to get to work or who are returning home late at night. We contacted First and they had this to say. "In recent weeks, we have had staffing issues at our Huddersfield depot, and the depot haven't always been able to provide spare drivers at such short notice. We do have a number of spare drivers, though, who report to work each day, and they drive buses when the rostered driver is unwell. If the numbers of drivers of work exceeds a certain level, then we can get some drivers from elsewhere. We're a big company and we can call on our sister companies throughout the UK or agency drivers to ensure that things can be kept moving. This can take some time to arrange, which means that sometimes when it's last minute, we regrettably have to cancel a journey. But we do our utmost, working extremely hard to cover all of our advertised services. However, we have recruited some new drivers who are in the final stages of our training school programme, which will see an improvement in the current staffing levels in the coming weeks." Kirklees local TV went and asked the people of Huddersfield what their feelings were about the quality of service provided by First Huddersfield.
Oh yeah, no, it's really good. I personally get the train, but I do get buses from time to time and it's always on time. Drivers are always friendly, bus is always clean, it's always a nice, pleasant experience, yeah.
Absolutely brilliant, because I live actually, I think, Home Fair, and the service from here to Home Fair, then I get the H5 up to right outside where I live, and sun, snow, everything, absolutely brilliant.
Just a standard service, isn't it? You get what you expect.
I think they're very good, really, for everything, yeah. There are odd exceptions that you object to, you know, exceptional times of missing, etc., but they're few and far between.
Well, I mean, to be honest, like I said, I had the sort one, which is also a student bus specifically to university. It's not a problem, like, you know, I paid a set amount, it was pretty cheap and it did the job. It was a bit of a nightmare with traffic, but that's like anything, so you can't avoid that with a car or anything like that.
So, the people of Huddersfield had a quite rosy picture of First Bus Company, it seemed, right? I know you travel on First buses regularly.
I tend to use them quite a bit, yes.
Yeah, and how do you feel about the problems that with the services that they're providing? Do you feel there are some?
Yes, there are. And in another life, when I used to live in Pudsey, I've suffered from that. Because where I live now in this beautiful verdant countryside called Mould Green, actually it's only a mile out of town, but I just happen to be in this little oasis in the middle of it. The bus service is just fantastic, principally because there's lots of different buses from different outlying areas that roll down and funnel down Wakefield Road. Couldn't be better for me, you know. Yeah, I don't run for a bus if one goes, I just sit and wait for the next and one comes. But when I lived in Pudsey, I was almost at the end of the line. It was, there was only 2 stops beyond me, and the problem was I used to help with university exams at that time. And one thing that you've got to be, and an exam is there in time if you're running it. And quite often I had to go not just 2 but 3 buses before the one that would get me there, just in case any of that 4 didn't turn up.
Yeah.
And it was appalling. In fact, 4 sometimes didn't turn up. 1 arrived during the morning once, just 1, and that was first bus as well. You can tell I'm still smarting from it after 4 years of it. I can still feel the frustration of it. No, my feeling about this is public transport means transport for the public, and that is too big and important an issue to be left in private hands.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to come on that, onto that. I was going to ask, in what way do you feel that the problems that people are seeing, maybe not the people that we interview, but some people in Huddersfield are seeing, in what way do you think they're related to the privatisation of the bus services?
To a certain extent, you see, our buses run for people who travel on them. Technically, no. They're run for the people who own them, in other words, the shareholders. So if most of the time, 90% of the time, probably the interests of the shareholders are the same as the interest of the passengers. Otherwise, it wouldn't be making... But that 10% that doesn't, who wins every time, it's the shareholders. So all these non-profit making routes that go out into the tentacles of in between towns, places like Marsden possibly, they're going to suffer because there isn't as much profit to be made. And if there's no profit to be made, that service will go, not the one that makes the profit. And therein lies the trouble. It isn't then a public service.
Indeed. So how do you feel the services could maybe be improved? I know you're quite happy with your service down there, but it certainly...
Only by accident.
By accident. I mean, certainly in light of privatisation and profit being the main thing for profit-driven industries. Yeah. I mean, it's unlikely to see improvement on less profit.
It's not going to happen in the foreseeable future. Although it just might actually. Thinking about the last few party conferences that there's been, I am firmly of the opinion that although it costs more. And some ratepayers will say, I've got a Jaguar, I've got a Bentley. Why should I have to subsidise these people who go on buses? Well, sorry, you've got a Jaguar and a Bentley. You can afford it, right? So help somebody that cannot afford it. And by paying taxes, it means that the corporations that used to run them, it cost a lot, but there was strength in depth. They had good vehicles. They bought the best vehicles, not the cheapest. They had the best fitters and mechanics, not just some geezer who can actually put a spanner to a nut. You know what I mean? They bought buses that were built to last, not built just to run at the cheapest cost for the longest amount of time. And it's all that infrastructure that is gradually being nibbled at and easy. That's why the problems are now, so the chickens are now coming home to roost. So the 80s were not a good time for public transport. Neither were the 90s if we're talking about trains, but we're not. So.
But how do you feel about then renationalising public transport, and do you think that's a realistic goal?
I would love it. I think it's the only way to make it work, but it won't happen because there is too much vested interest in it not happening. A lot of people with much of the money would not want to see it happening. A, because they're the shareholders who make a profit out of it, and B, because they would be subsidising poor people by paying for buses that they're not using. And I can see the argument, but on the other hand, how are poor people to get about and get to jobs if there isn't a reliable bus service?
I mean, if you have a business and you have people that work for you and those people use public transport, then you are benefiting from the public transport system. So you should be paying into the public transport system as well. Do you think that's a fair argument?
Yes. A lot of people will say no, but I happen to think that. I'm rich, but I'm not poor either. And I don't mind. I wouldn't mind chipping in a bit more just to make the transport. I mean, privatisation was the death of the British bus manufacturing industry. It killed it off because there were too many other countries. Here's an opportunity to sell. Subsidise the price, cut the price, and they did. Wow, did the foreign bus manufacturers move in quickly, and all the old revered companies that went for quality rather than quantity just got blown out of the water. Yeah, and all the jobs went.
Well, certainly this is from First Bus Company's statement. This is going to be something we're going to keep an eye on. Make sure, keep it and try and gauge people's responses. Talk to some people in Marsden, maybe, see how they feel about it.
That's another thing. What was the main calling cry in the 80s when this was? Oh, you'll have a choice of bus companies. Lots of bus companies will be running. You can choose which one you like. Competition, that's what it's about. Really?
I mean,
do you see how many bus routes do you see where two different companies are running and competing?
I mean, I know that in Slathwaite you do have a slight choice. There is you can get a first bus which arrives regularly, in general, or you can get a Stocks bus, which I think there's one every hour up until about 5 o'clock.
Small companies, they run what they can,
and that's in Slathwaite, but in Marsden, First company in general, because First Transpennine run the railways, they have a complete monopoly of public transport coming out of Marsden.
And there's another argument that could keep us here all day.
Indeed. But I believe we have to move on now. We will be keeping an eye on that topic. If there's anybody out there that does have any stories, whether it be good or bad, about their experiences with First Bus Company, please do get in touch with us. As always, you can do so by email, info@kirkleeslocaltv.com. You can find us on Twitter by searching @TheWeekly Windup, and you can also find us on KLTV by searching KLTV on Facebook by searching Kirklees Local TV. Now it's time for our final news story from the Kirklees area. Reported in the Huddersfield Examiner on the 4th of October, Shepley dancer Courtney George makes a poignant stage debut on her tour with the Michael Jackson musical Thriller Live. A young dancer has landed a top role in a hit West End musical which starts its British and European tour tomorrow. Talented 21-year-old Courtney George of Shepley is one of the 10 dancers who will wow crowds in the Michael Jackson tribute show Thriller Live. It will be a bittersweet moment for Courtney, who will perform her first ever professional show at Blackpool's Grand Theatre. The curtain up coincides with the 2nd anniversary of the sudden death of her mum and popular dance teacher, Donna George. Courtney was long said by her mum to be destined for a bright career as a dancer and has been rehearsing for 12 hours a day from Monday to Saturday in London to get ready for her debut. In the show, she will perform spectacular routines to some of the King of Pop's most famous songs. Her dad, Ken George, a filmmaker who has documented Courtney's dancing journey, will travel to Blackpool with Courtney's brother Elliot, a 23-year-old engineer at David Brown's. Ken said, "Donna always believed that Courtney would go all the way, and she's been proved right." Thank you, Dave, for joining me today. As always, you can contact the Weekly Windup by email, info@kirkleeslocaltv.com. You can find us on Twitter by searching @TheWeekly Windup, and you can also contact us on Facebook. Thank you and goodbye.